Number 1. When I was 6 years old, my favourite thing to do was explore the woods by my house. I never went into the thicket alone. My friend Ethan liked to join me. But sometimes, it would just be me and my neighbour Katrina, who was 7 at the time. To get to the woodsy area, you had to first cross over a large fallen tree over a small ravine, something I would never do now, but at that age, I was fearless. My friends and I spent many days daring each other to cross back and forth over the tree without using our arms for balance. One particularly dreary summer day, I asked Ethan and Katrina to explore with me, but Ethan wasn't feeling too well, so he stayed home. Katrina and I set off to the obscure path that led to the fallen tree and spent a couple of hours in the woods. I remember the smell of the woods and the damp, slippery feel of the leaves beneath my feet. It had rained the night before, and the woods were electric with the sound of birds chirping and water rushing through the ravine. We were so entranced by it all. I guess that's why we didn't hear the man approach us. My first thought was to get the hell out of there. I knew all about stranger danger, and I just had this weird feeling about this middle-aged man. Before I could tell Katrina what I was thinking, the man told us that he thought we looked like great explorers and that he could really use our help. He told us that his puppy had run off into the woods and she wouldn't be able to take care of herself, so it was really important to find her soon. I hesitated, but Katrina had always had a weakness for puppies, so she agreed to help him look. We set out to look for the missing puppy, but I just kept getting this weird feeling. Every time we walked towards the direction the man came from, he would tell us that he had already looked over there and that we should keep to the other side. By that time, I was done. I was ready to nope the fuck out of there, but Katrina wouldn't budge. I told her I was leaving, and she said she was going to stay. I wanted to beg her to come with me, but in the end, I left without her because I couldn't bear being there any longer, and I was only a kid. I jogged back through the woods, careful not to slip on any damp leaves, but the fallen tree was covered in them, so I had to tiptoe my way across. Halfway across, a chill went through my body, leaving a trail of goosebumps on my skin, and I ran. I ran so fast, I forgot how slippery the log was, so I didn't even realize I was falling into the ravine until I had already hit the rocky bottom. I had heard a loud crack, and I looked down to see that my femur was broken and sticking through my skin. Things get a little foggy after that, but I guess I screamed loud enough for the closest neighbours to hear me and call 911. I'm just happy I screamed loud enough to save Katrina. The police and EMTs found me lying in the ravine, crying and grasping my broken leg. The last thing I remember was pointing towards the woods and telling them to look for Katrina. I woke up the next day with my leg hooked up to the ceiling in traction in a world of pain. My mum was holding my hand, and she said that when I was ready, the police would like to talk to me. I asked if I was in trouble, but she said it was nothing like that. They just needed to ask me a few questions. A policeman came in and asked me if I had seen a man in the woods before I broke my leg. I recounted the events that happened, and I asked if they had found Katrina. Thankfully, they had. When I left, the man started asking Katrina about her family, and if she had any big scary brothers that would come looking for her if she was out too late. Their conversation was cut short by my screams, and Katrina immediately ran towards the sound. Luckily, the man's reflexes weren't as fast, and even though he tried, he never caught up with her. She said, when she got out of the woods and looked around, he was running back into them. She thought that maybe he was going to get help, but it turns out there was no lost puppy. The police never found the creepy man, but they did find a bag hidden in the bushes where we first spotted him. Inside the bag was some rope, duct tape, and a pair of binoculars. Sometimes I have nightmares about what could have happened that day, and even now I get chills when I go into the woods. Number 2. I was 11 years old at the time of this incident. I spent the night hanging out with my closest friend at the time, and I left around 7 o'clock. Their house was about a 15 or 20 minute walk away from mine. It was the month of December, so it was icy and dark outside. While I was walking down the long sidewalk, I had to make a turn halfway. Across the turn, down the sidewalk, I noticed a man way further down. At that moment, he was alone. 10 seconds later, a 4-door car drove up to him. It was a long street until my turn, so I just watched him talk to whoever was in the car until it sped off, and he just stopped and watched me walk. As I kept walking, all I heard was, "Hey you, come here. Hey you." I freaked the fuck out. I started walking faster, and then I noticed he started running towards me. I started running for my life. Since the ground was covered in snow and ice, literally all I thought about as I ran away was, "Please God, don't let me slip. Mum, please help me." I was crying as I was running. He caught up extremely fast. I kept looking back, and I noticed the same car was slowly driving behind him. As I ran, I felt his arm reach out and try to grab the hood of my sweatshirt. By God's grace, his hands slipped, and I ran a block, trying to find a house with lights on. I finally found one, and I banged on the door, almost ready to break it down to get inside. This older couple finally answered. I ran inside, explaining what was happening. The husband then went outside to try and find him. When he went out, he saw the man standing at the end of the street, staring back at him. Then he simply ran off. My mum called the cops and pulled me out of school for 4 days afterwards. He was never found. For a while after, I would buy flowers and a card and leave it on the couple's step, thanking them for saving my life. God only knows what would have happened to me if he got me and dragged me into that car. Number 3. Okay, let me start by saying that I'm a female college student. My school is known for being a big party school, but I'm not really into that. I never really have been, even in high school. I never saw the point in it all. But after my last party, I have even more reason not to be. It was my first semester of freshman year. I'm a chemistry major, and I met a lot of my friends through various labs and lectures. There have also been a fair share of creeps. I'm really not used to being the center of anybody's attention, as I never have been before, and I don't really see a reason why I should be. I liked having only a few friends and keeping my circle close. I liked being myself, in the background. But still, new state, new rules. And there were creeps. One such creep was named Tom. He was in my chemistry lecture, and from day one, he just seemed to fixate on me. At first, I'd just catch him staring at me when I looked over my shoulder at the clock. He always made sure to sit behind me. I'd smile politely and turn back around, slightly creeped out, but nothing super bad. Then, after a couple of weeks, he got up the nerve to talk to me. I was raised to never be rude or just ignore people talking to me, so I played nice, even though I wasn't interested. I don't know why I was so against him at first. He seemed nice enough when I talked to him, but something in my gut told me he was off. Anyway, I started seeing him everywhere, even when I knew he was supposed to be in class. I tried everything for him to get the hint. I tried avoiding him, moving seats in lectures, shutting down his attempted conversations. Unfortunately, I'm not a very confrontational person, and I couldn't find a way to just tell him to leave me alone. He never seemed to get any of the hints. My friends always teased me about my admirer, and I'd laugh along, but it still unnerved me. He just started inserting himself into my life, and I didn't know what to do. One time, just after Thanksgiving break, I was studying outside at a picnic table, and lo and behold, Tom shows up. He starts asking how my break was, how my family was, if I was happy to be back, and then he asked how Bruno and Riley were. Bruno and Riley are my dogs, and while I love to show them off, I knew for a fact that I had never talked about them with him or shown him any pictures. The rational part of my mind reminded me that Riley was the lock screen on my phone, so he could have at least seen her when I checked the time or something. And Bruno was my wallpaper, so he might have seen him at some point. But how did he know their names? When I asked him, he got nervous and tried to convince me that I had indeed told him, but when I insisted that I hadn't, he made up some excuse and just walked off. I should have done something then. Maybe talk to a security guy or something. But I didn't. I regret to say that I didn't want to. I thought I could handle it myself. I never have been good at asking for help. So, fast forward a little. Tom started to get weird. He kept asking for my number, asking me out, trying to get me to invite him back to my dorm. He got really aggressive. Eventually, I got to the point where my instinctual, well-learned manners went out of the window, and I flat out told him, directly yet gently, that I was not interested in having a relationship with him or anyone right now. He got angry, yelled at me for leading him on, calling me names like slut and bitch and whore, and then just stormed off. He started texting me non-stop, telling me how much he hated me and how I deserved to die. I still don't know how he got my number. I know what you're thinking. Now she must have gone to the police or security or something, right? No. I was an idiot. I'm not a very confident person as it is, and some tiny part of me felt guilty, like I actually had led him on. I didn't even tell anyone about the texts. I just deleted them, convinced that if I just ignored them for long enough, that he'd just stop texting me altogether and go away. I was a stupid, naive little 18-year-old, and I just let it happen. Okay, fast forward about a month or so. It's near the end of the semester, close to time for us all to head home for the winter break. My friend, Anna, had just broken up with her boyfriend, and she and my other friend, Tori, wanted to go out and have drinks to take her mind off things. Tori and Anna are both very petite girls, and, naturally, are incredible lightweights when it comes to drinking. They've been known to make some terrible choices after just a few beers, so they asked me to come along with them and keep an eye on them. I agreed, and brought my own water bottle with me, so that I wouldn't have to drink anything there. Even the water at these parties made me suspicious. The three of us went to the party, and while Tori and Anna went off drinking, I just sat on the couch in the corner and kept an eye on them, taking sips from my water. We'd been there for about 3 hours, and then someone sat down beside me. I look over, and you guessed it, there's Tom. He seems completely hammered already, and he starts talking to me, telling me almost incoherently how sorry he was, how much he misses me, how he overreacted, how he wishes he could take it all back, and asking if we could hang out later. I refused, and I told him to leave me alone, but still, he persisted. After about another 10 minutes or so, I saw Anna across the room, stumbling drunk and about to walk off with some guy. I got up from the couch after telling Tom yet again to leave me alone, and I went over to Anna. I separated her from her new friend, who was not nearly as drunk as she was and clearly wanted to take advantage of her, and I got her and Tori back together. I tried to tell them that we should leave, but they begged me to stay a little longer so that they could dance some more. There's really no arguing with these two when they're drunk, so I let them. When I went back to the couch, Tom was gone. Please note that most of the rest of this story I only pieced together after the fact, as some of the memories are vague at best, and most are just missing altogether. I must have left my water bottle on the couch when I went to save Anna. After I took a few drinks, I started to feel weird. I was super dizzy and shaky, so I decided it was time to go home. I grabbed Anna and Tori, and we left, taking the bus back to the dorm. Or at least we must have. When I woke up, I was in my bed, still in my clothes from the night before, and I had the worst headache imaginable. I couldn't remember anything at all, and I felt really weird. My roommate told me that I had come home around 2 and stumbled into bed and passed out, mumbling something about not feeling very well. She was surprised, since she knew that I didn't drink, but she figured I decided to let go a little this night and had a little too much. I started to realize what had happened. Tom had drugged my water. I felt sick. I knew Tom was a weirdo, but I never thought he'd be quite so driven. It sent shivers down my spine to think about what he planned to do. As if to confirm my suspicions, when I checked my phone, I had a new text from Tom. It said, "Why'd you leave so early last night? I had such a night planned for you." I didn't go out much after that. Not just to parties, but to class either. I told my friends and professors that I was sick, and I got the last week's notes from them. After finals and break, I came back and I found out that while Tom was stalking me, he was neglecting his classes and, as a result, had flunked out. I haven't seen him since, but still, I haven't gone to a party since then either. Tom, you are one sick bastard. Number 4. I was 13 at the time this happened. It's important to note that I have a twin sister and 3 older cousins, whom we camp with at a cabin every summer. All of our parents are close, and the time together is the highlight of the season. This particular summer, we started our week-long camping trip by pulling pranks on each other. Just little things like air horns on toilets, etc. It was the 4th night of our trip, and all of us kids were in one cabin, watching scary movies. I was getting a little freaked out and tired, so I went to bed. Not 10 minutes later, someone was at my window, tapping. I couldn't see who because it was so dark, but I figured I was getting pranked. I decided to strike first. I snuck to the foot of my bed, and once the tapping started, I smacked the window and popped out. I was instantly confused, because I did not know this man at the window. He yelled, "Don't look behind you." I turned around, and before I realized what was going on, my window was being pushed open and he reached out to grab me. I screamed the most bone-chilling scream, and my cousins came running in. The guy ran, and I burst into tears. My sister comforted me, while our other cousins locked everything up and called our parents. My screen was outside on the ground. Our parents looked, and although other people were camping in nearby cabins, none of them fit the description of the man in my window. Hi guys, Lazy here, and thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed these ones, and there's going to be a few more videos later on in this week, guys, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and that way you won't miss them. As always, make sure to check out Anthony's artwork, and you'll hear from me again very, very soon. Stay spooky. And remember, the best things happen in the dark.